Alright guys, what is up? We're back. I've been awake for maybe 5 minutes. But do not worry. It's all good. And we're here with the video covering the tier shifts. And you honestly did not get much, and the video from yesterday, I did say that I didn't expect us to have a whole lot in terms of impactful shifts. Really, well, in terms of number of shifts. Impact of these shifts is huge. We only have 5 that actually really matter. The only thing about the Obstagoon shift to RU is that now we cannot, like, retest it or something. If we ever were to feel like, oh, we get these shifts, or we got these other shifts, so Obstagoon looks like it's balanced now. I don't think that was gonna happen this gen anyhow, frankly, but maybe there was a chance down the road. You know, like near the end of the gen, I could see a scenario in which Obstagoon somehow looks better down the line from like a year from now if we were to still be in Gen 8. Anyhow, though, let's get to the actual consequential shifts. Obviously, PU got their monster tier shift today, so we can cover some of these. I won't go over all of them, because honestly, there's not any reason to. But I can go over the ones that I think are a little bit surprising, maybe? Or I can explain why some former Pokemon went down, I don't know. We'll see how I feel when I look at all of them, frankly. First, let's go over the 2 losses, because they're both pretty significant. Rhyperior to RU is the big one. This was the best stealth rocker in the tier, and it wasn't really close in my eyes. I think Rhyperior was so nice because ground immunity. I always say ground immunity when I mean a Volt Switch immunity. Volt Switch immunities are just a necessity on every team, I feel. Unless you are just really not caring about getting Volt Switched on repeatedly throughout a game. And Rhyperior was also really nice because it was a flying resist, a normal resist, a poison resist, generally really bulky and good at blanket checking, a lot of options. It wasn't passive either because it had like base 140 attack or something. It was essentially all you could want out of a defensive Pokemon, and so losing it is gonna really suck, especially because it makes Toxtricity so much more of a threat. And also because we got Tornadus. Now, I think this mod is Weather Ball this gen anyway now, so at least under Rain wouldn't have been a great check anyhow. But losing a check to, like, all the fire types in the tier, kinda lame. And Umbreon, I think if we still had Poltergeist in the tier, people would hate this loss a lot more. But Umbreon was still a really good just blanket special wall. It was a, nice thing to have, Psychic Immunity on your team just to check something like Entity Female, just to generally slow down Cresselia, even. And so losing it is annoying. It's also just, beyond just being a special wall, I think it's just really bulky in general. And so, setup sweepers like maybe Barbaracle if they are Grass Knot instead of Superpower, those aren't going to OHKO you at +2. So you could respond back with the Foul Play and just kind of bop them back. That's all I really had to say about Umbreon, though. It was a great Wish Passer, too, because of its HP being pretty decent. It was obviously a cleric. For what it's worth, I think Sylveon can mostly just fill in the void. But I think it's still a pretty impactful loss. And now we get to the shifts that are, like, impacting in you pretty interestingly. So, remember how we unbanned Drizzle at the beginning of the month, but because we didn't have Politoed or any Drizzlemon, it didn't matter. We now have a Drizzle Pokemon, and we have Tornadus now, smiley face. Yeah. And this is still with us having other Pokemon tier, like say Ludicolo, like Kingdra. So Rain just went from not particularly relevant to incredibly scary, all in one tier shift. And I'm unsure just how long Tornadus or Drizzle or what have you is going to last in the tier. On its own, I think even Tornadus would have some contention for whether or not it's like fine to keep around. With Drizzle, I think people will very much be against it. Although maybe they'd more so be just pro banning Drizzle and just saying, alright, get rid of it. Too many Pokemon broken. Just get rid of the ability. I don't really have any, thoughts regarding how I'd want to deal with it yet. I'd probably lean towards a Drizzle ban, but I wouldn't be surprised if we... Well, frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if we banned Drizzle and then, also Tornadus. But, let's see how the tier goes. And then we get Ditto back. Now, Ditto is a Pokemon that is sort of like Gastrodon, in that its relevancy in metagames varies depending on how much its very unique subset of traits is needed. So, you see Gastrodon rising from, OU back down to PU several times last gen in OU. And it was because occasionally you just have a meta where Gastrodon feasts. And so it'd be up there, and then eventually people would be like, okay, Gastrodon sucks again. And so they'd stop using it, and it'd just fall right back down. Ditto kind of does that as well. We saw Ditto in OU for much of the early generation because it was the best answer to Dynamax. And just the generally very offensive heavy nature of OU. And I believe that's also why Ditto rose up to RU. They got a whole bunch of offensive threats, lots of weather, I believe, with Venusaur and Rain. I think Gardevoir was also common for this reason. I think there was also a lot of Veil, but I might be wrong. I think they had Alola Tails, though, at one point. And so I think Ditto was up in RE for a little bit, sort of as a... wow, that was not English. Sort of as a response to all of the just super high offense archetypes that were running around. And so now, since, I guess Drizzle isn't that great anymore since Politoed fell, I don't know. Maybe it's still good. But now we have it. Now, let's look at what PU got from us. So, here's the thing. A lot of these tier shifts are just because the Pokemon aren't very good anymore. I'll probably just go over the bonds that I still view as the, particularly good. So, Golurk and Inyu right now, I wouldn't be surprised if we got him back. Golurk is a very, very, very potent wall breaker, and it only gets better with Umbreon being banned. Umbreon was a resist to Poltergeist that could also EV pretty easily to outspeed Golurk and just drop it with Foul Play. It's probably not bad with an offensive Stealth Rock set either, if you wanted to go Soft Sand, Spell Tag, maybe even Life Orb. It's also a good offensive Toxtricity check, because you're immune to Boom Burst and its electric moves, and then you quad resist Sludge Bomb. Only thing you really have to fear is Snarl, and that has not been seen really at all so far. By the way, run Snarl on Toxtricity over Sludge Bomb. I think it's a very good option. We did that earlier this gen in OU to pop Dragapult a little harder, and essentially the idea is the same. It's a bomb that resists all your other moves, so you may as well hit it with the super effective move you have, and Snarl generally isn't that important anyway. And also losing Rhyperior is just huge for Toxtricity, so use that mod more in general. Hitmontop's been bad forever. I'm surprised it even fell to out of Inyu though, because everyone on ladder loves Hitmontop. Magneton I've seen a little bit of usage of lately. I think mostly because people like trapping. Scyther I'm a little surprised to see drop. It's not a bad Pokemon by any means. It's a really good fast pivot. I think maybe because we have Noivern, people were not trending towards it as their fast pivot though. Prominence of Rhyperior and Raj could also kind of dissuade people. Let's see, what else fell? Braviary, I just haven't seen this Pokemon at all, so I'm really not shocked to see it fall. It's probably not bad, but again, Rhyperior prevalence definitely hurt it. And then you just have a lot of other common Pokemon, like Toxtricity was kind of annoying unless you were max. Toxtricity, I say, was kind of annoying. You just outspeeded KO Bravebird, I'm sorry. Heliolisk, even though it fell to PU, I'm still going to call it common. You had Heliolisk, you had Bronzong, which could be kind of annoying, just because you don't Oko it at +1 with CC. Rhyperior, like I said. Even Rotom, which wasn't particularly common, but was still an issue. Centiskorch, I'm actually really surprised that it fell. I think Centi is still one of the better Pokemon in the tier, frankly. Its coverage just makes it an incredible pain to switch into. Fire Lash lets you break down pretty much any defensive Pokemon as well, so long as it can't beat you first. And then Leech Life just complicates it further, because if you aren't able to deal significant damage to it, it can just kind of keep healing versus you. I wouldn't be surprised if this mon came back up, but I think it may have dropped because, like, we have other fairy resists in the tier, we got other fire immunities in the tier. And similarly, I'm kind of shocked Zard fell for two reasons. One, NU had Drought earlier this month, and so Charizard was very good with Drought in the tier, but the other reason is Charizard was a good check to the Steel-type Stealth Rock setters. You pretty much walled Bronzong forever. Kaparaja, you have the potential to wall, unless it ran Rock Slide or Stone Edge. I mean, all the other rockers, yeah, they beat you. I know you beat Palisand a decent amount of time. I'm mostly just surprised because I thought the the Drought usage would push it higher up. I'm surprised Claydol and Colossal drop just because they're Rapid Spinners plus Stealth Rockers, and Ladder loves that. That's really the only reason. Dredagon, I think Dred's just not being used because there are other Rockers now, and other Dragon types. I really feel like that's entirely the reason. Duraludon, it's really a similar thing. Plus, the fact that it can't touch Steel types and we have a whole bunch of new ones does not do it many favors. Iron Defense sets might still be possible on it. I might test them out some. Oh my lord, we finally dropped Eldegoss? PogChamp. Eggy Alola, it's literally just competition. Exploud, I think, but I don't know why you dropped. Toxtricity, you don't know, it's because Toxtricity is the better sound-based wall breaker. Obviously, that's a very contentious spot for competition. But yeah, I think Exploud's not bad. I've used it a little bit, and it's felt okay? I think maybe part of it's just been that there are enough normal resistant Pokemon to where people don't want to have to think and use the coverage moves. There are like other wall breakers that are stronger and require less thinking. It's not a mon that like the reward for playing well with rewards you a whole lot compared to where you can just not think much at all with some of the other mods and get even more mileage out of them. Gallade, not surprised. We have like a whole bunch of bulky psychic types now that kind of puts a damper on its show. Gigalith, I am shocked to see fall because I still think it's a pretty good stealth rocker. Generally just a good special wall because of Sandstream. Buffing up special defense. I'm so sorry for all these like misspeaks. I'm still really tired. Yeah, I could see Gigalith coming back to NU, but maybe it just stays down there. But at the same time, losing Rhyperior makes me think people would want to turn back to Gigalith, so we'll see. Heliolisk, I mean, this is a good Pokemon. It's a really annoying pivot, I feel. I feel like the only reason it probably did drop is because we've had, like, actually a fair few just special walls, like Sylveon and Umbreon. That Lisk just is always forced to Volt versus, and while Volt switching repeatedly isn't bad, it's like, you're still kind of being limited in what you can do. Hitmonlee dropping, I am shocked, because I just, same with Indity Female. I just assume more people will use, Terrain. Especially because we had Poltegeist, so why did it drop? Indity Female was like core with it. So that does shock me. Machamp dropping doesn't shock me, really. I think they're just better fighting types, even if Machamp isn't, like, bad per se. I think you could just, at times, struggle to be put onto a team. And at Omastar, it has some, like, usage, from what I've seen on certain teams for, like, Suicide Lead with Stealth Rock and Spikes. I think maybe with Drizzle around, you could see it more in you, though. Palisade should not have dropped. I think this mon's really good. I think, well, I say it should have dropped. It's probably like the 4th best rocker in the tier, if you include Rhyperior, which no longer is in the tier. But I think Palisade got a lot better with that change, because a lot of mods that Rhyperior was reliant on to check, Palisade does check. And also checks some annoying Pokemon like Mienshao, Toxicroak. I call Toxicroak annoying. That mod really isn't even that good right now. Oh my lord, I'm looking down here and just some of the mons we dropped are funny. Yeah, I definitely think Palisade is still really good at Inyo. I wouldn't be surprised if it rose back up. Passimian, as I said in the fighting types video, there's nothing wrong with Passimian. It's just, how do you justify using it over Mian Xiao? The bulk at the end of the day isn't that important when you take into account Mian Xiao having Regenerator. And so it's just hard to really ever find a reason to use it unless you just are explicitly using it because you want Passimian. Oh, Little Raichu falls too. I'm shocked about this again just because terrain. I always assume people want to use the funny offensive archetypes. Now keep in mind, I still voted to ban this Pokemon mostly because I feel like under terrain it's very broken. But I'm thinking the issue is just people see that they have to use Pincurchin and are very turned away from that. Rabombi dropping after at one point being top tier in NU. I think at this point it's just so hard to find a reason to use it. Quiver Dance sets and Choice Spec sets aren't particularly any good. And in Sticky Web even, it has competition now with Araquanid. So, you know, kind of just hard to find a reason to use it that doesn't just leave you competing with another slot. Roserade falling, I don't understand this one. I think it's the best spiker in the tier. Golisopod gives it some competition, but I think Roserade's better on offense. So you have like a defined niche there. I'm assuming people stopped or aren't using it because of it being walled by steel types. But realistically, what does that matter? Sure, you can't wall break, but Roserade's like Ashgren from Gen 7 in that even if you're walled by something that's switching in, like, oh, what was Ashgren walled by? I don't know, like a Toxapex when you're in normal Greninja form. You can still spike up. You can still Sleep Powder the incoming Steel type. Like, Roserade's really good at luring in and crippling Steel types with Sleep Powder, or just using those as an opportunity to spike up, so I really don't get why we let it drop. Rotom, maybe I'm just more of a fan of Rotom than other people, but I still think it's pretty good. Normal immunity, fighting immunity, ground immunity, I feel like those three, especially in current NU, are very important. Especially because a lot of the choice item Pokemon running around commonly use those types of moves. And so just having something that can say, no, you don't get to do that, it's really cool. Scrafty falling, I think, is just a matter of competition as a fighting type, and there being better sweepers on, like, hyper offense. Sigilif, I'm very shocked at it falling. I think this is one of the best wall breakers the tier has. It kind of just says, oh, you're using a passive Pokemon? Hello, I switch in for free. And it could be because people play it into offense and then they realize, oh, this mon's a lot worse now. Because admittedly, Sigilif can struggle to find great opportunities to come in and break versus those faster paced teams. Yeah, I think it should rise back. So Valley Fairy, I don't know, there's more steel types now. Is that why we're not using it? I haven't used it yet this month, so, you know, I'll admit that. There's also, like, Toxtricity around, which I guess is kind of annoying if you don't want to run Psyfangs. I don't know, I feel like the spawn's probably still really good. We had Rhyperior around too, but, like, Ari was running some workup set with Surf at one point. I'm sure that's still good. Maybe I'll have to check it. Ghost Valley falling, I haven't seen any of it. I'd like to imagine it's probably still good in NU, but, or maybe not good, but, like, usable? I don't know. So Valley Steel, I'm a little shocked at it falling. We do have better steel types now, but it's still like fairy and dragon resistant Pokemon that can pivot and defog, which I think's at least a pretty defined set of traits that could allow you to justify it pretty easily on teams. Did I see a typo somewhere here? There's no way I did. Surfetched falling, there's better wall breakers for fighting types. Mian Xiao even if you generally view it as a pivot, I think it's a better breaker. Pangoro, if you want to stick at fighting types. Revenge Killers, we've got other first impression users that I think are a little bit better, like CP Flygon. Again, I mentioned in the fighting types video that maybe Leak is just a little bit better. I think part of Surfetched's issue could just be that you let too much shit in for free if you ever use first impression. And so maybe you just circumvent that by running Leak and saying, okay, I'm gonna just hope I crit your team to death. Sneasel finally not being an NU Pokemon for First time in a few generations. Or NU or higher, I guess I should say, because I think it was banned in RU. Or banned in Gen 6. Yeah, Sneasel's just a little bit worse now because power creep is higher. So it's harder to get as much mileage out of it. I still think it's pretty solid, but eh. Talonflame fall into PU. I'm not shocked about this. Although I still think it's a pretty good NU Pokemon. Being walled by Rhyperior was just kind of unfortunate. Tauros hasn't been good in NU for a while. I'm shocked that Thwacky dropped. I've seen so much of this on Ladder. Good work, Ladder. Wait. Guys, okay, wait. Pincurchin was never NU, right? Please. Please tell me Pincurchin was never NU. Because I don't want us to somehow have dropped a Alolan Raichu but kept Pincurchin. I'm assuming it's still PU. Or lower. Can I? Okay, well, there's nothing down here that would tell. Yo, Gallarfisk actually just dropping to fucking ZU. That's crazy. The fall of, like, a once really good Pokemon. Let's see. Toxicroak. This one shocks me, and it doesn't shock me at the same time, because Toxicroak has felt really kind of underwhelming in NU so far. Like, I feel blanking shit like Milotic should be really helpful, but I just always feel underwhelmed by it because there's so much more that outspeeds it and doesn't care about potential priority nowadays. Like, you got Noivern, you got things like Roserade. Admittedly, Roserade doesn't do a whole lot back unless you run extra sensory, but there are more options for faster Pokemon now, and I just think Toxicroak's speed tier is significantly worse than it used to be. And it's not like it's a particularly strong Pokemon naturally. Its highest attack stats, I think it's physical attack at 107, which isn't bad. It's just not good either. So, eh. Shocked, but not shocked. Serena falling, I'm also not shocked. I feel like me and Coots are like the only people that have been using this Pokemon. I don't think it's too bad, but it can be kind of awkward at times to fit on teams. I think it's good mostly because it's one of the few viable spinners, but if you're competing with Dhelmise as well, you're both grass type, so it's kind of hard. You gotta both siphon off usage, and I think Dhelmise people would look at and go, oh, that's a cooler Pokemon. Uxie falling, I haven't seen much of it either. But I imagine it's not too bad in NU just because defensive psychic type, you know? And Vaporeon falling, I could have telegraphed that a mile away. We got both Sylveon and Umbreon, which we're going to take usage away from it as Witch Passers, and Milotic, and even Gastrodon as a water type. Vikavolt, I just haven't seen the Pokemon around. I would like to believe it's probably not a bad breaker, but I haven't used or seen it, so I don't really have much to comment on. Maybe people are just using the faster Pokemon. I really couldn't tell you. Maybe people see Vikavolt's low speed and go, I don't like that. It's really my best guess. Vileplume dropping, I mean, I don't think it's a bad Pokemon at all. Maybe people are defaulting more to regular just Slowbro Galar. Is there fighting resist right now? I'd use more Vileplume though. I need to build with it. Strength Sap kind of makes it so being walled by Steel types isn't that big a deal. You know, if they come in, you can sap immediately. And it at least gives you more room to pivot around things like Raj. Virizion falling, I'm very unsurprised by. I've been very underwhelmed by it when I've used it. I think a big part of it is the frequency with which people are using Slowbro Galar. And like Noivern even, although you could deal with that a little bit more easily. But Galarbro walling every Virizion set makes it so hard to even try using. And then you run into still a fair amount of faster Pokemon, like again Noivern, and just give it a headache. I just think it's very hard to try to use on a team. And the last mon that I view as kind of significant is Xatu. I just feel like Magic Bounce with Teleport is always good. You know? Maybe we see more of it with Rhyperior gone. That's gonna be it for this video. Any other shifts that are funny? Aleki finally is being realized as a shitmon by OU players. Cobalion being below Yu feels like a crime. That just doesn't feel right. And of course we talked about like Galar Fist Quelling to ZU. I'm surprised that it didn't get more usage in PU. I would have thought that a Steel type that also blocks Volt Switch would have been really good. But I guess I'm wrong. Anyhow guys though, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. I hope we can make some heads or tails out of these shifts. There aren't many of them for NU at least. PU there's plenty though. And they've unbanned their whole PUBL, so that's cool. But until next time guys, I hope you enjoyed life, and I'll see you then. Peace.